What's up, guys? AG Sports. We're back again. Man, I don't know if you watched that game last night, but that game was freaking drunk. I mean, it was nuts. I don't know how else to explain that. So as far as our picks are concerned, well, we dropped the one where we had picked about a month ago at this point, which was Ravens minus 4.5. And if you recall, and you've been watching these videos, about last week, I said, and actually this was right after Gus Edwards went down, that you might want to lay off of that if you hadn't already put money down on it because of all of the injuries. I know a lot of times we get told by the media and by fantasy people and everybody else that running backs are a dime a dozen. Just, put whoever back there and they'll be fine. And honestly, I agree with that to an extent because a lot of running back production is really dependent upon the offensive line and the scheme. And so a lot of that does come from just the team overall. It's not the running back himself. In saying that, though, there's a few things that I take exception to with that. So number one being, as a coach, and again, I've never been an NFL coach, obviously, so it's just an assumption here. But you have to alter your scheme and possibly alter your play calling depending on what running back you have back there. And you also have to, know your personnel. So you're not going to call the same plays that you would call for, let's say, Clyde Edwards-Helaire that you're going to call for Derrick Henry. They're both running backs. They're both, talented, but they have a different play style. And you have to be cognizant of that. And so that's not to say that Tyson Williams is bad. He wasn't. He looked good, actually. But it's a very different play style and a different scheme that you're going to draw up for him than you would if it was Gus Edwards or J.K. Dobbins. And the other part of this is that the running back position, while yes, a lot of times, again, we're told that it's not a big deal. It's just put somebody back there and they'll be the same as anybody else. You have to consider that these guys are really playing a lot of different positions for the team. A running back is going to be asked, obviously, to run the ball. They're going to be asked to block. They're going to be asked to catch the ball. They're going to be asked to pick up blitzes. They're going to be asked to, swing block on certain positions. They're going to be asked to go out as a receiver in certain formations. They have to do a little bit of everything. And on top of that, they are probably the only position, or they are the only position on the field that consistently gets the ball behind the line of scrimmage. And as soon as they get the ball, they have the entire defense looking at them. That's a receiver doesn't have to do that. A tight end is not typically going to have to do that. And for the most part, if you're a receiver or a tight end, when you catch the ball, yes, obviously the person guarding you should know you caught the ball, and the safety or somebody else in the backfield should see that you're catching the ball. But those linemen don't know. Sometimes the ball's over the linebacker's head. They're not directly turning towards you right away. With the running back getting the ball in the backfield, all eyes are on him, and he is being asked to beat an entire team at that point. The reason I'm saying all this, guys, is not to downplay what happened last night, or not to say that running backs are super important and you need to only have great running backs on your team or you should pay up for them. But it is to say that the pendulum has maybe swung a little too far with this whole running back doesn't matter kind of thing. We didn't get the cover, and I'm not saying that was all because of the running back position, but it is something that, like I said, if I could go back knowing those injuries, I probably wouldn't have laid that position. What I did lay, though, and if you follow me on Twitter, you saw this, about an hour before the game started, I was able to find the prop, Lamar Jackson over 70 yards rushing. And so with that position taken, obviously he did go over 70 yards. I believe he ended up at like 82 yards on the night. So the night ended up being a wash because we had the over on the yards prop, and then we of course lose the cover on that one. If you didn't watch that game, it's kind of hard to explain. But for the most part of that game, it really looked like the Ravens were gonna cover. It looked like they had the win, and there was like one or two times that I was like, okay, this is done, it's over with. Let's just wrap it up and go home. And they just couldn't put these guys away. The Ravens were, out to a lead. They were playing conservative. It was a lot of running, a lot of checkdowns. Lamar Jackson not being very aggressive. And then when he would try to be aggressive, it was just, incomplete passes. And then you have a turnover problem where he's trying to run and he drops the ball. He actually fumbles twice. Now, I'm sure you've seen this before, and I'm sure you've heard other people say it, but maybe it's just me, but it looks like he runs very carelessly with the ball. He's got it out, to his side. It's really not tucked in, and I get that he's not a running back, but that always concerns me. Anytime I see a quarterback take off and he's holding it like a loaf of bread, I'm like, come on, man, you got to tuck that thing away. And that's exactly what happened. He gets stripped twice. So that turned the game around as well, especially because on one of those, he gives the ball back, I want to say on the 35 or 40-yard line. They were already in field goal range when he turned the ball over. So those things obviously do play into it here. But my bigger takeaway from this was that the Raiders and the Ravens are very conservative teams. They both wanted to run a lot. The Raiders didn't really hit any deep passes. They were not letting Carr open up the offense until the fourth quarter, until they were down 7 or 10 points. And then they decided, let's finally kind of get into gear here, which is very telling, especially because on that last drive where the Ravens are up by a field goal, they did not put any pressure on Derek Carr. They kept rushing 3 and dropping everybody back in coverage, when the whole night they had been able to get into Carr's face and kind of move him off his spot. And he is just terrible under pressure. If you didn't see it and you're not really aware of his play under pressure, go back and watch it. I mean, obviously most quarterbacks are not good under pressure. There's not really anybody that is good under pressure unless you're Patrick Mahomes. But man, every time they had him on the run, every time they had a hand in his face, I mean, that ball was just misthrown. And there was 2 times where it really should have been picked, and the DB just dropped the ball. It was surprising to me that they decided to run that kind of defense when all they needed to do was get a stop. They should have been, again, very easy to Monday morning quarterback or Tuesday morning quarterback here for me, right? But I'm just saying, I thought they were going to put pressure on him and kind of stop the passes from getting down, but instead they did the opposite. They let Derek Carr have time to pick their defense apart and let their DBs kind of handle the coverage on the back end. Didn't work out. They get the field goal, pushed to overtime, and then we have a crazy overtime finish. But anyways, that recaps the pick. It recaps the game for the most part. I would love to take the Chiefs against the Ravens this coming week. I don't think the line is going to be really as giving as we were hoping it would be. Prior to the season starting, that week 2 matchup had been listed as a pick'em. I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. You're probably looking at Chiefs minus a touchdown at this point. And even at that, I feel totally fine with it. Like I said, the Ravens were just very, very conservative. They wanted to run the ball and then run the ball and run some more. And the only time they really started passing the ball was in the fourth quarter when they wanted to put the team away. And even at that, they had one good deep shot, and that was it. There was a couple that were just missed. And then everything else was 15 yards, not even 15. It's probably 10 yards or less. And then it was a lot of runs. So I think the Chiefs will, probably let the Ravens run on them as much as they want to. But at the end of the day, you're not going to beat the Chiefs running the ball like that. You're going to have to put up more than 24 points or whatever they put up last night. The Ravens really benefited from the fact that the Raiders were also willing to play a slow ground and pound kind of game and just keep that game close all game. The Chiefs will not do that. The Chiefs are going to pass. They're going to open it up. And if they can get out to an early lead and then force the Ravens into some mistakes, it's going to get ugly. So, like I said, the line has not come out yet, but I expect that line to be Chiefs minus 6 or Chiefs minus 7, and I'm still okay with either one of those. Aside from that, though, a pick that I did add, and so I went back, I watched the film, I went back and adjusted some ratings for an injury, that is, was the Rams and Colts. So the Rams at minus 4.5, I went ahead and grabbed it. I put the full unit on it. I know yesterday was one of the games I was kind of going back and forth with and something I was looking at. And I really wanted to see if that line would move any. And surprisingly enough, it has not moved. What really sold me on this one, though, if you go back and you watch that Colts and Seahawks game, the Colts really had no answer for the Seahawks when they went deep or when they just passed the ball in general. They couldn't stop Tyler Lockett, which is why he had a huge game. He had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. DK Metcalf was just doing what he wanted, but it's DK Metcalf, right? Like, not everybody is that monster of a human. But really, the Colts had no answer in the secondary, and that's kind of concerning because the Colts were a really good defense last year, or at least that's what they projected to be this year too. But when you can't stop the pass like that, and you're going to play against the Rams, who, if you didn't watch their Sunday night game, were very pass heavy, a lot pass heavier than I thought they were going to be. And the only thing I can really attribute that to is that in the past, Sean McVay maybe had to run more than he would have liked to because he knew about Goff and his deficiencies. And now that he has a competent quarterback, he feels more comfortable letting that ball rip. And so he's going to pass, which is perfectly fine. That's exactly what we want. That's exactly what analytics say you should do. With that being said, I see him looking at the Colts game from last week and finding those weak spots, finding those bad matchups in the secondary, and being able to just let Matt Stafford go ham on him. I mean, with Robert Woods, he's a bad matchup by himself, but then you have Cooper Kupp, and then Van Jefferson had an amazing showing last week, and it looks like he's really taken a step forward this year. So I see both of those guys just having huge days against this Colts defense that was not able to stop the Seahawks as far as passing attempts are concerned. Obviously, Russell Wilson's great, and those receiving options he has are great, but Gerald Everett was even having a big day, and Tyler Higbee, if he is worse than Gerald Everett, it's not by much. And I think most of us would say he's probably a little bit better than Gerald Everett. And Sean McVay is probably a little bit better of a, I don't want to say coach necessarily, but even though I think he is a better coach than Pete Carroll, but if anything, I believe we can all agree he's a better tactician than Pete Carroll. I really don't think the Colts are going to have an answer for this one. And even on the other side of the ball, the injury that needed to be updated was the Colts right tackle. So he was actually injured, it seems like in practice, because he didn't show up on the injury report after the game on Sunday, but he does have a foot injury. And so because of that, he's going to be questionable. Even if he plays, though, I think we have an issue. I couldn't think of his name. It's Brandon Smith from the Colts as their right tackle that was suffering this foot injury. So like I said, he's listed as questionable. But let's say that he doesn't play. His backup, as far as Madden is concerned, has him ranked as a 63. And obviously that's not great, but especially because we are already missing Eric Fisher and Sam Tevy, who were both left tackles. You now have effectively 2 backup tackles, and one of them is your third stringer. The other one is a backup that we really don't have a lot of film on. But the more concerning part of this is that regardless of which side you're looking at, you're going to have a backup going against Aaron Donald, and probably he is the best defensive lineman in the entire NFL right now. So while the Colts' strength was offensive line coming into the season, it's not going to be to their advantage in this particular game. Now, last week they were able to get some work done on the ground against the Seahawks, and I don't think the Rams' defensive line overall is that much better, if any better, than the Seahawks. But Aaron Donald will sure make a difference. And really the biggest concern here is that when the Rams get out to a lead, you're going to have Carson Wentz back there trying to move the ball through the air, and you're going to have bad matchups all across the field. You're going to have Aaron Donald most likely getting in his face early and often against these backup tackles. Then you're going to have guys like Michael Pittman going up against Jalen Ramsey, and I'm taking Ramsey in that contest all day. Even their other side of the ball, as far as the other like the right side of the field, where we have your secondary matchups, there's just not really a plus matchup at all for this Colts team. The only player that was really a concern as far as the Rams are concerned is going to be Jonathan Taylor. But if that line can stop him, either before he gets to the line of scrimmage or shortly thereafter, it's really not going to be a problem. And even if Jonathan Taylor gets going, even if he's having a good day, or if Nyheim Hines jumps in and he has some good plays and maybe collect some yardage on the ground or through the short passes, that's going to be perfectly fine as long as the Rams can build an early lead. At some point, if the Rams get ahead by 10, 14, 20 points, whatever it is, the Colts are not going to be able to just keep these little 2-3 yard plays moving. They're going to have to stretch the ball further out. And with Carson Wentz in the backfield and with really no great receiving talent and no plus matchups and with Aaron Donald coming at you, I just don't see them keeping this game close. I think this is a perfect spot for the Rams to really flex on us and let us know exactly how real they are. Last week against the Bears, very similar matchup in that the Bears wanted to run, but the Bears did throw in Justin Fields for a play or two. He actually scored a touchdown, and they had Allen Robinson. The Colts did not have that. The Colts are a lesser offense, don't have a great backup option at quarterback, and the defense of the Colts really didn't look as good as the Bears, even though they both got beat pretty soundly. So that all being said, that's why I added the Rams. So I did add the Rams minus 4.5 to week 2 picks. The other thing I wanted to go over here was really just these numbers as far as the Patriots were concerned. So if you didn't watch the last video, I did take the Patriots minus 3.5. As of right now, they have moved up to 5.5. And yesterday, like I said, I knew this line was going to be moving. And I told you to grab it at minus 3.5 before it got any higher. Well, there were some books yesterday that still had it at 3.5 kind of throughout the day. By the end of the day, it was most likely at 4 to 4.5, depending on what book you're using. And then today, as soon as I checked this morning, every book that I look at has it at 5.5. So if you didn't grab it at 3.5, it's no longer available unless something happens to change this line. And realistically, I see it continuing to go up. I think by kickoff, you're probably looking at Patriots minus 7, or at least Patriots minus 6. Let's say Patriots minus 6 just to be on the safe side. But if you haven't grabbed this line already, I don't know what to tell you. I would still grab it. I think there is still value there because I think the Patriots just dominate this team. But again, obviously, you'd rather have the 3.5 than the 5.5 or a 6. So if you end up waiting until it gets to 6 or 6.5, it's possible you could put it on a teaser somehow. But like I said, that's going to be up to you. I would still grab it. I think there is still value all the way up until the 6.5. So that's it for today, guys. Just wanted to recap the game, let you know about the extra pick, and please follow me on Twitter as well. So if you can like, comment, and subscribe on this video, and then follow me at Twitter at AG_sports21. I do give out picks. A lot of times it's going to be like right before the game or an hour before the game because certain props will come up, certain things will pop up on my feed that I had not seen before that are really, really favorable. So give me a follow there, guys. We did wrap up the week at 6-4. Because of the 2 picks last night, and we ended, as of right now, we are up 5.15 units. So it's been a pretty successful season so far. But thanks again, guys. Thank you for your support, and have a great day.